The Elecam Explorer K offers true 4K video recordings and image stabilization for under $90. Stay tuned for the full review. What's happening everyone, my name is Alex and welcome back to a new review. For today we have yet another action camera from Elecam, and this one right here, it's called the Explorer K, and as I mentioned earlier, this can record in real 4K. This one it's using a fairly new processor made by HiSilicon, and this one it's called the Hi3559 that's paired to the Panasonic MN34120 image sensor with a field of view of 170 degrees. So this camera comes in a very cool carrying case, and that's great mostly if you want to take everything with you, and of course inside the case you're gonna find the camera and the waterproof case. Once again, the manufacturer suggests that the waterproof case is good to up to 30 meters in the water, but I didn't exactly go swimming because it's kind of cold, but I did have the case in water and there was no water going inside. There is also a user manual that's in English and it's got a whole bunch of pictures, so definitely useful if this is your first action camera, and aside from that we have a whole bunch of mounts and stickers so you can place the camera basically anywhere. The camera itself looks decent, but very similar to all the other action cameras that we've seen from China lately, so pretty much everything about this camera it's made out of plastic. On the front we have the power button that's also a mode button, the lens, and a couple of LEDs that can be turned off from the software, and aside from that we have a couple of holes that could be the holes for the microphones. At the top we have the OK or the recording button, we have another LED and some other holes that could be like the speaker or the microphone. And since I'm talking about the microphone, why don't we check out some microphone samples that I've recorded with this camera. Alright, so this is a quick microphone test to the Elecam Explorer K. This time around I'm inside the house and there is no other noise aside from my voice. So under these conditions, this is how the microphone sounds. And yet another microphone test to this action camera that I'm trying out. So this time around I'm driving, and I figured it's gonna look cooler if I drive instead of just sitting in the car there. But aside from my voice, you should only be able to hear maybe the engine, but not even that. So this is how the microphone sounds under these conditions. And as you've heard, the microphone doesn't sound bad, but the volume is somewhat low. Alright, so moving back to the camera, on the left hand side you're gonna find the micro USB charging port, and we also have a HDMI out port. This camera can also record while it's charging, and that's great mostly if you plan on doing time lapses with it. And talking about time lapses, this can make a time lapse with the push of a button. And this is actually a time lapse that I've done with it a couple of days ago. Moving back to the camera, on the right hand side you're gonna find the button that can turn on the Wi-Fi, and that button can also access the settings menu for the video recording mode or the picture taking mode. At the bottom we have the slot for the SD card and a small plastic door that covers the 1200 mAh battery. I tried a couple of 64 gig SD cards with this camera and they both worked very well, and I'm gonna leave some links in the video's description just in case you wanna check them out. And moving to that 1200 mAh battery, well, first of all, it takes about an hour and a half to fully charge the battery from 0 to 100, and you can record for about an hour and 5, an hour and 10 minutes in 4K at 30 frames per second, or about an hour and a half at 1080p. And lastly, on the back of the camera, we have a 2-inch screen that doesn't have the best resolution, doesn't get super bright, so it is a bit difficult to see whenever you're outside. However, it does have good viewing angles. Alright, so this camera has a couple of interesting features. The first one would be the electronic image stabilization, and the electronic image stabilization also works for 4K recordings or 1080p recordings, 60 frames per second or at 30 frames per second, whatever you choose. That's called DIS under settings, just in case you don't know what to look for. And next I want to show you a sample of the electronic image stabilization on and with the stabilization off. And as you've seen, the electronic image stabilization works, but it's not that great, but I guess better than not having any. Next, the Wi-Fi capability. So this camera can make a Wi-Fi network and you can control it from your smartphone. To do that, you're gonna have to download an app on your smartphone or tablet, then you can make a Wi-Fi network with the camera, connect to that Wi-Fi network with your smartphone, and all of a sudden you can see everything that the camera sees right on your smartphone. From there you can start and stop recordings, you can change settings for the camera right from your smartphone, and you can also see what you have saved on the camera. And the Wi-Fi connectivity works good up to 10 meters away from the camera. After that it tends to disconnect quite often. And now it's time to check out some daytime video recordings that I've done with this camera. So keep in mind that they are all recorded in 4K at 30 frames per second, and the image stabilization was also on. And in my opinion, the daytime recordings look very good, aside from the image stabilization that's not the greatest. So next we are gonna check out some recordings that I've done at nighttime.
Into my house one time to have a little play.
She did?
Yeah, and you know what?
What?
I wish it was summer already.
Yeah, I wish that too.
So I don't need to wear a jacket.
Come on. And as you've seen, the nighttime recordings don't look that great, but they're still better than a lot of other action cameras that we've seen on the channel. And of course, since this is an action camera, it can also take pictures, and the picture quality it's actually quite good for daytime and nighttime pictures. As always, using the camera it's fairly simple. So on the front we have the power button, and that's also mode button. So from there you can switch in between video recording mode, picture taking mode, settings, and so on. Each mode has its own quick settings menu, and to access that menu you just press the Wi-Fi button on the side of the camera. So for example, if you're in the video recording mode and you press that button, you have access to change the resolution, and you can choose whatever resolution you need for that particular video, and you can also choose other modes. We also have a media settings menu, and from there you can choose if the microphone is going to be on or off, if the electronic image stabilization will be on or off. You can flip the image, and a whole bunch of other settings that may be interesting for different users. And lastly, for the general settings menu, you can change the language, you can change the time, and you can turn on or off those LEDs that are available on the camera. And it's time to conclude this video. So for under $90, this offers pretty good value in my opinion, mostly because the daytime recordings look very sharp and better than other cameras that can record in real 4K that we've seen here on the channel. The nighttime recordings don't look spectacular, but still better than other cameras that we've seen in the past, but the image stabilization is not the greatest out there. But overall, for the price, I think it offers really good value. Alright guys, hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did like it, press that like button, don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.